welcome to episode 44 of Last Turn. I'm Bart, and as always, I'm joined by Evan. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. So is my cat, apparently.
Okay.
We're all celebrating together. Actually, that was Kali.
Hmm.
Very, very vocal this morning. Very excited for the new set, I'm sure. That's what she's talking about.
Yeah.
My cats are really into Hearthstone. And they really like the troll characters, you know. You know how cats get about trolls.
Yeah,
And,
I learned that one during World of Warcraft, actually. They were really, hype about the trolls, generally.
Those cats, man. So this is very exciting. We have not had an episode since BlizzCon, which is when the new set was revealed. And it seems to be sort of like Journey to Stranglethorn. Like it's already been pointed out, the set seems a little bit Journey to Ungoro-ish, because there's like pirates and dinosaurs and stuff. But the mechanics seem cool so far.
Yeah, I think we've seen a bunch of cards that do like interesting things, and some new keywords. That's kind of cool, like Overkill. But
yeah, that I don't know. I guess that's cool because it rewards you for doing more, right? Like usually you're just trying to do math to do the exact right amount.
Yeah,
I
but
can
like
see Overkill being fun.
It's pretty often that you end up doing more,
Yes.
Like, if you deal 4 damage to their 4/3, it's like, that's fine, So it's cool in that respect. Like, I don't think there's anything flawed about how it's designed, but it's definitely like, it's kind of like modal, I guess, in a way. You can do the exact amount, or you can do less, and then get something else for it, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, if you can, it would reward you for having ways to manipulate how much damage you can do, I guess. Like something like spell damage would get more useful to have, like, as an availability.
That's definitely true.
And also, you might need to make a decision, like, do I hero power that as mage, and then use my spell and get this overkill effect? Maybe you're Frosted Jaina, or if you do in the opposite order, you play your spell and then... Well, no, then you wouldn't be able to hero power it because that would exactly kill it. So that was a bad example. But there might be instances where the order in which you do things is different in a meaningful way from other stuff.
Indeed.
I'm really excited about Shirvala, but I'm not sure about how... So this is a 25 cost card. So it's a 7/4... 7/5. It's a 7/5 rush, lifesteal, divine shield, and it costs 1 less for each mana you've spent on a spell this game. So I guess if you spend 25 mana on spells, it would cost 0, right? That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Did that check out to you? But my thought is Prismatic Lens.
Oh, interesting.
Prismatic Lens is a card from Boomsday that it's a 4-cost spell that you draw 2 cards from your deck and a spell and a minion, and they switch costs. So what if you got Shirvala and 4 or less cost spell?
Well, you never cast the spell, but you definitely cast Shirvala.
It sounds to me like it would immediately cost 0. Because you would have spent 4 mana on Prismatic Lens, and its cost would be 4 or less minus 4 or more. That's 0.
Got it.
So, I mean, I don't know if it works that way. Like, it could easily be tested. There is Mountain Giant, also costs 25. But that sounds really cool to me, and in general, like it seems like a really great addition to a control deck.
Yeah, it seems interesting. I was trying to do a little bit of like napkin math and work out how difficult this is to get down to reasonable cost. Because like you don't have to reduce it by L25, but you want to reduce it to like 6 mana before I think it's a really amazing card. That is quite a lot of spells, and
yeah.
I think that your point about Prismatic Lens is definitely an interesting one. It's not something I considered. That's really cool, but in order to get that to go off consistently, you would need to like distort your deck quite a bit. In that you're not running other minions, and Paladin is like pretty minion centric. So I think that you could, it's not like they're mage and they just have 30 amazing spells they can put in their deck. So if you ended up distorting your deck, like I don't think the reward you're getting from doing that is worthwhile. Yeah, but I mean, there could be other tricks like shuffling it back into your deck somehow from your hand. I don't know.
Well, you do make a good point, because, like, Paladin also uses things like equality and secrets, like, it's got cheap spells, and this does care about how much they cost.
Yeah.
So, in a normal Paladin deck, it does seem like it could be tough to use. Shrink Ray helps, but whether or not it would be useful in a way without Prismatic Lens is questionable. But the other card that I think it could be really good with is Carnivorous Cube. Because A, every card's good with Carnivorous Cube, and right. B, if you can get its cost low, then you can play it and cube it in the same turn.
That is true.
As particularly if my Prismatic Lens trick works, you just do that turn 4 and turn 5, play it for 0 attack, cube it, and win.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely it's definitely a really good cube target. Like, because it's a really strong minion tap lifesteal. Like a 7/5 with lifesteal is no, that's nothing to scoff at, and it has Divine Shield too. That's also awesome. So this thing is like, if your opponent has minions on the board and they're like kind of ahead, if you play this, you can catch up pretty much the same turn you play it, which is cool. It probably won't be able to close the game on its own. It isn't that kind of minion, but it's definitely a catch-up minion.
Yes, it's not really a finisher, but it can easily gain you 14 or more health. I guess the other idea behind it is another kind of card that would be good to play with it would be Spikered Steed. Nice, expensive, good spell. And then if you have it low enough cost, when you play it, you can Spikered Steed it, which is amazing. Or you can Blessing of the Kings it, another spell that costs mana, so that'll help you play it, and then when you play it, you can Blessing of the Kings it, you'll gain more life. Or actually, an underestimated but good card, Sound the Bells.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's like a modal, fungible way to spend mana on spells to get its cost down, or once you play it, buffing it with Sound the Bells is pretty sweet too. So those are some cute ideas.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I think it's one of the more interesting cards that we've seen. Of the spoilers. Like,
also, I did the math. Turns out 25 is odd. Huh?
No.
Nah.
Yeah, no.
I don't think it's going odd. Maybe if Stand Against Darkness was a card you could run, like, and Muster for Battle were in Standard, but
or this would go really well with like Forbidden Healing.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. It is good with Lay on Hands for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, Lay on Hands is the card I think of when I look at this card. It looks like you want to play this in a deck that's running, 1 or 2 Lay on Hands, because Lay on Hands was playable historically. So like, but it needs the support. Right now it seems to me like this isn't a closer. It's not something you're working towards and then you play and win. It's something you play and catch up. So it's like not clear to me that you want to distort your deck that much for it. So if you can get it in there incidentally, that's awesome. And there might even be some decks that can do that, depending on what we see next year or what we see in the rest of the set. But I think Paladin would need to change pretty substantially from where it is now in order to get to a place where this is a card that you just jam in a deck.
For sure.
But it's really cool, and there's always the future. And like, if I can imagine a Paladin world where this card's playable. Like if Paladin's deck contents looked a bit more like Control Mages.
With more like board control, and then also that finisher. That's basically what you're saying. What Shrivala really needs more than spells to cast is a finisher that's as consistent and powerful as the other things that are out there, like Deathstalker Rex are, and Malagos Druid and just whatever Druid's doing with its twig. Frostit's Jaina. The caverns below. All of these endgames are really, really fearsome. Fatigue warriors as well. These are. Paladin doesn't have anything that competes with these things. That's one of the main reasons that it control Paladins in the deck. Though Egg Paladin has been doing some stuff lately. I've been seeing some pros play Egg Paladin. Have you seen any of that?
I actually have not. I definitely saw the deck like a while ago, but I haven't seen it recently.
The key is that it uses Meat Wagon, and Meat Wagon can pull the eggs.
That's cool.
And then it uses 2 cubes, and you use and Ziliax is also a huge play in the deck.
Oh sure, yeah.
Because you can Ziliax the 8/8 dinosaur that comes out of the egg.
That's gross.
And so it's just an 11. And then when you Kangar's Endless Army it back, it's still got that buff. So that's just and I think that's a huge thing. Like Paladin will have Ziliax and Shrivala. Like those are both great comeback minions. I want to call them comeback creatures because it's got alliteration. And that's great, but if you can't win,
yeah,
it doesn't
that's the
mean
issue.
anything. So, and I've tried to make Uther combo work, and it's pretty bad. They're gonna need to. They would need to be, like you said, some pretty cool new way to win with Paladin for Shrivala to be good for the most part.
Yeah, I think so. It's still a cool card, and I mean a lot of the ones we've seen have been pretty neat from this new set, but nothing jumps out to me as hugely powerful just yet. But I mean, there's definitely some cool stuff here.
There's Hold It.
Timeout.
Yes.
I mean, I was close.
Paladin's Frost Nova.
Yeah, Frost Nova / Ice Block.
Disguised as Ice Block.
It's slash the battle cry of Valera, which is actually probably the most similar thing to what it really is.
Yeah, giving your hero stealth, very similar.
So I have a question about that. If you
Yeah.
give your hero stealth and then attack with your weapon, does it unstealth you?
Yep.
Okay.
Bad mistake to make, though. Pretty uncommon in Quest Rogue because usually you're just hanging on to your weapon if you DK because you want your South Sea deckhands to have charge. And if you go poking with your weapon for 1 damage to their face, you're gonna wind up having 4/4s that don't have charge.
I see.
So
That's
that
interesting.
doesn't come up, but it has happened before where I didn't think about it and I de-stealthed myself and I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
That's bad.
I've definitely never seen it, and I don't own Valera, so I haven't had the opportunity to make a mistake. But
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It's a bad mistake to make, and then so you can do the opposite with timeout. You can attack their you can play timeout and then attack their 12/12 Deathwing with your weapon, and you won't take 12 damage. So that's a pretty neat thing about timeout. That's different from Valera's Battle Cry, and different from Ice Block, and different from Frost Nova.
For sure.
The Immortal Prelate actually seems sick too. The Paladin 2-mana 1/3 Death Rattle, shuffle this into your deck. It keeps any enchantments. That's pretty strong.
It seems like, yeah, I mean, it's very cheap. It's like a Kingsbane almost, but
Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing that could maybe give you the endgame you need versus a Fatigue Warrior. So maybe that's the beginning of what nonsense Paladin would need to pull to have a sufficient endgame.
so what's really cool about this is you can imagine if this was just in your deck raw with Steed and Blessing of Kings, it might be too inconsistent. But this goes really well with Call to Arms.
Ooh, yes, that makes me feel better about not dusting my golden one.
I definitely would have dusted it, but I guess I understand. It's the endowment effect. You have it, and even if you would never craft it again, but you want to have it, so it's actually an inconsistency. But I understand.
I believe in it. It was a card I believed in. Maybe this is the way. You just put a big smile on my face.
Yeah,
Thank you for thinking of that.
Yeah. I mean, because this looks kind of dirtily and derpy and slow, but I think Call to Arms can make it it works on both ends, right? If you play Call to Arms on 5, and pull this thing out. Now it's available for you to buff it. But and your opponent kind of has to check it. They have to respect it. Well, I guess not, depending on how quickly they intend to beat you. But if they intend to beat you slowly, then they do have to respect it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, or you can play this and enchant it, and then later call to arms it out.
And it'll just be some buff thing. Maybe like if you Spike Rich Steed it and then call to arms. Yeah, that's very spicy.
Yeah, for sure.
You can also play Arcane Tyrant for free off of both of those cards, and Shrink Ray. I like Arcane Tyrant a lot, and just throwing it into decks.
So what's I think yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to evaluate this sort of card because on its own it doesn't do a whole lot. It's understated,
Yeah, and you can't it locks out Prince Keliseth.
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge factor. So another card that I was thinking about with Keliseth in mind was Sharkfin Fan, the 2-mana 2/2 when after your hero attacks summon a 1/1 pirate. That card seems like it'd be great in Rogue, but Rogue just loves Keliseth.
Yeah, but I mean Rogue might. That card's really good. Maybe Rogue's just going to be like even Rogue. Let's do it. 1-mana daggers. I mean,
this works really well with 1-mana dagger. It doesn't, the pirate doesn't have charge, but that's okay.
It's not patches.
It's not patches.
They should have just let it have charge and been like, forget this game.
Could you imagine if they just they put a card in neutral that gave you a 1/1 pirate with charge? That would be so stupid.
I mean, it is if you think about it in Wild, the Pirate Warrior, it's so insanely good. But Sharkfin Fan with 1-mana weapons like Candle Shot could be really good.
Yeah. This thing rules with the cannon, ship's cannon.
Yeah, it's nonsense with that card.
Yeah, that's really funny. But so I mean, there's been some cool stuff so far. I can't I've had a hard time kind of detecting a theme, but I haven't thought about it too much or read too much content. I've mostly just been looking at the spoilers, but there's still a lot more to be revealed about this set. So even if it doesn't look super amazing just yet, we have a lot more to see. Also, I mean, Timeout generated a ton of discussion. I fall in the medium camp on it. I don't think it's particularly bad or particularly amazing, but a lot of people are talking about it.
I think I'm on the good camp. I don't think it's Ice Block. I don't think it's a card that many decks are going to want to use, but I think it'll be good in some decks.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine decks where it's good. But I totally agree with you. I don't think it's not Ice Block. That is the easiest comparison to make, and I think via our Discord channel, I forgot exactly who said it, but Frost Nova is definitely. Was that you who said Frost Nova? That's the most apt comparison.
Yeah,
that I've heard. Yeah, I think that this is a lot more like Frost Nova than Ice Block.
But it doesn't protect your Doomsayer.
Yeah, it's not a perfect comparison.
The Paladin deck just getting all of these derpy ways to survive, like Timeout, Shrivala, Ziliax, Shrink Ray, makes me very excited for some derpy Paladin controller combo deck. I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like, but if I'm called to armsing into Immortal Prelates, I'll be pretty stoked.
Yeah, that sounds sweet. I want to play that deck. Because that sounds like the way that I imagine that deck looking is that it'd be just a lot like a mid-range called arms deck, like the kind of a classic Paladin deck. Paladin has had this mid-range deck in existence since Ungoro. If you remember, the first Murloc version with Curator and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that deck has been. Flavors of that deck have been around for a long time, and I think that they kind of fell out of favor when Baku and Gen came out, because both of those offered Paladin a really awesome option off the top, but the even Paladin deck looked a lot like that mid-range deck, so I'd be down to play that again. That's a deck I've probably played a lot. Paladin's my most played class. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, I thought it might be Druid, but it's Paladin.
Wow.
Yeah, I have over 1,000 games.
Got that Night Searing?
I was thinking about that the other day. That was really stupid.
Luckily, you were able to re-roll.
Yeah, I was able to undo that terrible. On retail as well.
Oh, that's true. You took the Turing test and passed.
Yes. Well, no. They added a way to re-roll your earring
Oh,
onto.
right. I forgot that they
Yes.
did cool stuff.
Yeah. So Sandra had a Super Mimi. He didn't have a nice earring forever, which is great considering I ended up being like a warrior main in the end.
Good times.
Yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to go a little bit into our. We wanted to talk a little bit about Boomsday since it's sort of on the way out. I thought, we both collectively thought that it would be good to review kind of what we thought about it going in and how it's been. Yeah, I came up with everything here. So what are your sort of high level thoughts about Boomsday?
It was explosive. It was not as mechy. Like, basically, is one of the first things about it is that there were a lot of mechs in the set, and then the meta didn't get very mechy, I guess is what I'm saying. The magnetize effect didn't matter very much in standard, or magnetic rather, except for Ziliax, which is kind of what I expected to happen, and is what happened. Just or was afraid would happen rather. The only magnetic minion that really mattered was Ziliax. So that's kind of a bummer. But also, we're gonna start talking about the new set a lot. So that's another reason why you thought that we should talk about Boomsday now before we forget about it. The meta still isn't, I don't think, like completely even done evolving, which is a good thing. I think that people are still finding new decks. I think that the variety of cards is so wide that there's still things people haven't tried and still things people are finding that can work. And there will still be evolution to the metagame even as Rastakhan's Rumble comes out. So that's like a good thing, a good job not making something stagnant. Is I guess the observation there. But I was disappointed by how little magnetic mattered. But I think it's been a really good metagame, and they barely did that. Besides the giggling inventor change, they didn't change very much.
Yeah, it's I definitely agree with that. So I think it's I think that there was this sort of evolution of the metagame that started happening in the previous expansion and kind of continued smoothly into Boomsday. There was some set of nerfs that sparked it, but whenever I actually forgot what it is at this point, but whenever the like Cube Hunter decks started coming around, the metagame started changing pretty often, and I think that just never stopped through Boomsday, which is cool. Definitely, even now, like after Giggling Inventor change, like there's still more evolution because the card pool has changed. And they have not nerfed a ton of cards out of the set. I mean, only messing up one card's pretty good. And they didn't mess it up in a way that like was too oppressive, I guess. Like I could have lived in a world where we had Giggling Inventor and it wouldn't have been the worst thing. It's not like it wasn't the worst. But
it was certainly not ideal that the same card was in so many decks, but
so yeah, that's kind of one thing I wanted to respond to your point about not every class being mechy or not every deck being mechy. I think that's like you said, it's not ideal for the same card to show up in every deck. That's totally true. So you can use that logic to conclude that they need to be really careful about the power level of neutral cards in every set. So, neutral cards are awesome. They should print them for new players so that new players can have cards they can put in every deck. That's really important. It helps them support themes they want to be present across multiple classes, like in this case, mechs. That's also good. But if neutral cards are too good, then every deck ends up looking the same. This is something we've seen during when artifact sets come out in Magic. This happens. There's the most powerful artifacts, and then you just build a deck around the most powerful artifacts, or you have a card like Smuggler's Copter that just shows up in a ton of different decks, regardless of color. Same idea here. If you have neutral cards that are too good, like the Inventor, they show up in every class, they show up in every deck. It homogenizes the game. People can play. So all that is to say that I think in order for the set to be really mechy, they would have had to print a bunch of amazing neutral mechs. But then they would have ended up in a situation where every class is playing mechs. And then you have every class doing the same thing. And that's not good. So the fact that it's not super mechy is not that surprising to me.
Yeah, well, it's more that magnetic just seemed to be a non-thing. Like,
Oh
maybe
yes,
a
I agree with
keyword
that.
that didn't do anything.
Yeah, yeah, that is unfortunate. I agree with that. I thought we'd see a little bit more war gear, maybe. We have Ziliax, which is cool. That card ended up being better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, Ziliax was a big hit. Big fan of that.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool card.
But but besides him, there was really a lot of flop with regard to mechs and magnetic.
Yeah, not a lot of floop. It seems like going into this set, people were really terrified about Druid. I mean, myself included. But it ended up not being too oppressive, at least not in the ways that people thought. Yes, it was the best deck for a long time with like Token Druid and stuff, which is it's still a really good deck.
Yep.
But yeah, it ended up not being like the only class. Definitely not nearly as bad as Knights of the Frozen Throne.
Yeah, 5-mana Spreading Plagues.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the best Druid card in the set is probably Ultimate Infestation in Boomsday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't. It certainly wasn't Biology Project.
No. Yeah. So Oh wait, I think the nerfs before the ones that recently happened with the Giggling Inventor was the Called Arms nerf.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was earlier this year. I was still in grad school. That was a while ago.
Back in the day, unemployed.
Well, I wouldn't call that unemployed.
Well, I would, so there you go. That was just your word against mine.
Bodied. I mean, I was getting a paycheck. That counts.
I don't believe you. You weren't born in the United States. Show me your birth certificate.
All right, Ted Cruz.
Reliable source. So the cards that we predicted, we made a set review light, and we predicted cards that would be good for cards we were excited about, but also we expected something good to come of. And Biology Project, we both had high hopes for, but that didn't really see that much play.
Yep. No, it didn't. I guess
more than the Trent cards, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Those looked like garbage, and they were. I'm pretty sad about the 8-mana guy who copies the minions on either side of him. I didn't actually expect it to see play, but in my heart of hearts, I really hope that it did, and I tried to make him work with charged Devil Sores.
Gloop Sprayer, yes.
Yeah, with him and Cube and Devil Sword, you just make some nonsense happen. But it's just too much setup, and you end up killing your opponent with the Devil Sores anyway.
That does sound like some craziness though between those three cards: Cube, Gloop Sprayer, and Devil Sword.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to revisit that one. It's people definitely don't expect it.
Have you tried adding the quest?
No, I haven't.
You should do that. I bet if all those minions cost 0, it would work way better.
So one thing one thing that could potentially screw that up is I had Witching Hour in the deck for the Devil Source, because that's really good.
That's helpful.
Yeah, so that did restrict the pool of cards I have available, but yeah, maybe Quest is the way to go, but that sounds bad.
Because then you have to play the Quest.
Right, exactly. Then I have to play the Quest. And Druid's already a class where they suffer from the small opening hand problem because of their wild growths and stuff.
Yeah, it's I mean, but you can also use War Gear. That'll trigger your Quest. Put that card to use.
Yeah, I would need to find some mechs to put it on.
Magma Rager.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel what class do we feel won this set? Is it Warrior?
It could be. Warrior was mostly not a thing before this set came out, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I seem to remember that as well. There was some control and taunt decks going around, but none of the various builds that were out were tier 1.
Yeah, there was Warrior and Shaman were basically just not doing anything for a long time.
Yeah, is Shaman doing anything right now? I don't think so. I think it has some decks that are not good.
I think that even Shaman is probably okay.
Hmm.
and Shutterwalk Shaman is always there.
Sure.
But yeah, nothing especially good. But that's way better than it used to be. But yeah, Warrior
Yeah, for
definitely had
sure.
nothing, and Dinomatic, Omega Assembly, Doctor Boom all wound up being really, really good.
Yeah, that's true. Um, they Yeah, it's funny. Shaman is, I guess, still paying back its sins from late 2016 and early 2017.
Well, yeah, 4 mana 7/7s put you deep in debt. Their Thrall's mana crystals are still overloaded from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, so Warrior also got Super Collider. That was a card that I definitely underestimated, but
Oh, same.
that's maybe the best card it got actually.
Yeah, that card is really good. It's shocking how good it is. When your opponent plays it, it just like definitely kills something right away and kind of screws up your board in a huge way. And then also like it has a million health, and you just are terrified about playing other cards. It affects your play a lot. It's a really excellent control card. If you have the
Perfect,
health
yeah.
to use it, but you're warrior, so you definitely do.
It was such a perfect pickup for the control fatigue strategy.
Yeah, it's cool. I like they've gotten really good at designing funky cards that are good, which is awesome. Like because it makes the game a lot less vanilla, and I think that's like that stratifies the game from other digital card games. Like it's easy to make a game where you have 2 mana 3/3s and like the Fiery War Axes, and like the best deck is just the deck that has the most of those in it.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's not what Hearthstone is right now. So that's some like the all the decks are doing interesting things, have cool synergies. There are definitely some slam your face into the wall decks, but that's fine. That's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's Super Collider is like a good example of how they can make a weapon with low attack that is massively threatening because it kills minions really well.
It's also like not bad, like terrible against a group. Like that's generally a problem with a weapon. Is if you're trying to beat a swarm of minions, you're just never going to pull it off one at a time. This can at least do two at a time.
Yeah, yeah, and this is good at that. It's cool. It's good against like a wide range of stats too. Like weapons are usually good against things that have toughness equal to or less than the attack, but Super Collider is like awesome against an 8/8 and a 4/4, but it's also awesome against a bunch of 1/1s.
So that's as far as warrior cards, I think the only one we missed, but we had predicted Omega Assembly and Doctor Boom and
The 5 mana guy.
Dinomatic, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would say Garrosh came out on top.
For sure. It's so another thing that's been interesting is Warlock has just kind of been in Control Town for a really long time. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is a zoo deck now that is pretty good, and Solarium was definitely a part of it, and so was that card that buffs minions in your hand.
Yeah, the two Warlock cards I predicted were Soul Infusion and Doubling Imp, which are basically the zoo deck.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, right. The combo of the two. Yeah, so that's pretty cool that that deck did come around. Zoo Warlock is back, but there's been this Control Warlock deck that's existed since like Cube or before Cube, and it really just hasn't gone away.
It's not popular. Like I don't really see it on ladder, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, I'm not really super in tune with what's terribly popular, but it is certainly there.
It's Blood Reaver Gul'dan is a huge part of it.
Yeah, that card's just really good. It's like it's just worth building that into your deck.
That's if Paladin had Blood Reaver Gul'dan, we could just get really excited for Shivala, right? That's basically what we're saying.
Sure.
That's the kind of card that you want to close out the game with, and then all of the removal and Void Lord. I mean, the Control Warlock deck's just been spicy for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. So, what class do we feel like got the least out of the set, or like fell the most?
It could be Shaman.
Yeah, Shaman's doing bad. What about Priest?
Priest, did Priest get... well, it got, like, the topsy-turvy stuff.
Oh yeah, that cool like week 1 deck that was it Dog that was playing it?
Yeah, the APM Priest, right.
Yeah.
That, like, but that's not really a competitive thing, apparently.
No.
No. So, but I think, like, sometimes the combo Priest, like, not APM, but just, like, inner fires and high health minions has been okay. So, like, it kind of got some stuff, I guess, but I don't know. I guess Electra probably is better than everything Priest got, right? Because Electra's amazing.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, definitely. But I guess that card that card was put into like Shutterwalk and stuff.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's a snap inclusion in Shutterwalk, and actually Menacing Nimbus is like pretty good.
Yeah, that card ended up being pretty good. I remember when I was playing like an even Shaman deck pretty shortly after the expansion launched, and I played a bunch of Menacing Nimbus, and I liked it. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely one of those two classes. I mean, neither of them is doing particularly well right now. I think Priest still has some sins to atone for. Back from Razakis.
Yeah, good times.
I do miss that deck. It was a cool deck to play because it wasn't super simple. There was a lot to it, and you had to manage your resources really well. But like its endgame was very, very strong, so I liked it a lot.
Dude, it was one of my favorite decks to play, if not my favorite of all time. That was so, like, for one, the singleton nature, but not having Reno was just so intense. Like like you said, you really had to think about every single card you used, because you only had one copy of everything, but you didn't have that, like, bail me out button that every other singleton deck I had played up until that point always had.
Right.
So it was amazing that there was a goal besides Reno that was so worth being singleton, but sure enough it was. And, you're using a lot of, like, an Acidic Swamp Ooze and a Cabal Talon Priest and a Tar Creeper and just, like, random minions just because you just need them not to kill you. You're like, look over here, fight my minions, look at this stuff, and just try and not die, and play your two things and win the game. and it was really fun to win with it, because you get to, zap everything, and it felt a lot like Magic: The Gathering. That's something I was thinking. I was thinking about the Tavern Brawl maybe like a month or two ago, where you were using 6 cards and your deck refreshed itself.
Oh yeah.
And I made a deck. It was the pirate that makes your weapons cost 2 less, and Ultimate Infestation and Twig of the World Tree, and the 3 mana 1/3 kobold that returns a weapon to your hand that died. And like Nourish or Wild Growth or something, but you just play 2 pirates and play a twig for free, and then draw your deck and draw a new copy of Twig, like draw another twig, and then play the second twig, which destroys the first twig, which gives you 10 mana. Then you Ultimate Infestation, draw 5 cards, and play another twig, because your twigs are free, and get another 10 mana. And then play a kobold, return another twig to your hand, and play like a Nourish and draw 3 cards, and then play another twig, and then play an Ultimate Infestation. And that was a lot like playing Magic. That felt a lot like something you would do in Magic: The Gathering. And after I thought about that for a bit, I was like, was there ever another deck that felt like Magic? Yeah, Razakis. So
yeah,
I had actually been reminiscing on Razakis earlier this morning. But yeah, that was definitely also a sinful time for Priest.
Yeah, it was not really a healthy deck. I think that a lot of what made it unhealthy is that Priest has a ton of survivability tools. That is fine on its own. That's just what the class is about. But the way that you got that deck to win is by playing a card that you just need to play basically at any time, and then that's it. And then you play another card that you just need to play at any time. Like, so there was you couldn't interact with their game plan at all. So they had a deck that was just filled with interaction and a completely uninteractive game plan. So
Yes.
that was like, that's not really cool. Basically, every other deck has some counterplay to it. Even the things that like, even some of the stuff with the least amount of counterplay to it, like Rin, you can still play differently to make Rin a worse card and make like destroying, if your opponent destroys your deck, make that worse.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, she makes you do something inefficient. There's nothing inefficient about a 5-mana 5/5 that gives you 2 health, or an 8-mana board wipe.
Yeah, exactly.
At no point did assembling the combo set you back. It was so unfair.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like a lot of the time, if you have cards that you just need to play at some point to set something up, like they are 7 mana do nothing, 8 mana do nothing, but this is like 5 mana gain 2 and get a 5/5, and then the Anduin's a great card.
Like, oh, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
I basically played Raza every turn 5. Whenever I had it in my hand, it was just like always the best play.
And you always had it in your hand. That's the other thing. Is that you just always have it.
Yeah, it's that was a stupid deck. So I guess Priest is atoning for that. Though they do have that cool the cool combo deck with the cloning gallery.
Yeah, big priest or resurrect priest, or I call it garbage priest, but it is a blast. And
yeah, the deck's really fun.
It's like surprisingly good, but probably it's definitely not tier 1 or anything like that.
No, it's not. It's not consistent enough, and like it can just die too easily to be tier 1. It's not like it's. The thing is, like it wins out of nowhere, but it needs like 10 mana for it, and you need like a bunch of things need to kind of fall in the right place. Like you need to get lucky with your draws and not draw certain cards and draw other cards, and like then you can win out of nowhere. Your opponent can be like stomping you all game, and you could just do 40 to their face in 1 turn, and it's awesome. But
or more. But
oh, yeah.
the problem is and also aggressive decks just tear to pieces.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. That deck cannot beat like an odd rogue.
No, that's
before Giggling Mentor Nerf. No way.
Yeah, that's always grim playing that priest deck, and then you see your opponent's got the Baku rogue trigger going. Like, oh no.
Yeah, you're
not beating game.
Yeah, that was probably my worst matchup. I think my win rate with that deck was probably below 50%, but it was really fun. I should break it out again and lose some more.
I don't know if I was... I think I climbed from rank 4 to 2 with it at some point, so I'm going to consider that positive. That deck didn't really get anything from... Well, it got Zarek's Cloning Gallery.
Yeah, the gallery, which I think is huge part of it.
Yes, and we didn't actually... So we missed that one. You had Topsy-Turvy and Dead Ringers, your priest predictions. I had Test Subject. So, like, those were all, like, relevant in the APM priest deck. All 3 of those cards were used in that deck. So we did pretty good with that, but...
So, to be totally honest, I do think we brought up Zarek's Cloning Gallery at some point. I don't know if it was during our set review episode. And also, we did our set review episode after the APM priest deck was around.
That's
true.
So
it was a post-diction, not a prediction.
That's fair. From my perspective, it was prediction, because I hadn't found out about that deck yet.
Oh, that's true. I do think that... Yeah, yes. Yeah, I mean, so Priest might be the loser of this expansion, but who knows? We'll see. Priest always gets some weird cards, and they always have some weird decks.
They're getting a really weird spell. Did you see the one Priest card that's been revealed?
Oh, yeah, the super Kelesith, but it destroys 3 of your mana crystals?
Yes, that's exactly what it's called.
Yeah, that's the title of the card.
And then the text box is, super Kelesith. It's Surrender to Madness, 3 mana, spell, destroy 3 of your mana crystals, give all minions in your deck +2/+2.
That sounds like a Warlock card.
It looks like a Warlock card.
So it's pretty cool. Okay, we have to have a flavor talk real quick.
Uh-oh.
It sounds like a Warlock card because it destroys your mana crystals, and that's like that. Warlock's like the only class that does that. And Warlock is also like the suicide class. So what's cool is that this is surrender to madness. Like this is becoming evil. It's becoming crazy. You're like sort of going off in that chaotic direction, and it has like a Warlock type effect. That's pretty cool.
That is fun.
Yeah. So mechanically, 3 is a lot of mana crystals.
Yeah, and it doesn't do anything for the minions in your hand, which bites.
And it also, this is the kind of card you want to play, like, it's like Kelesith. You want to play Kelesith on turn 2, not on turn 8. You do not want to play this on turn 3.
That would be a beating, because then you'd be at 0 mana crystals. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd probably not win that game.
So how do you use this card?
You play it on turn 3 anyway.
I mean, it seems like that's what everyone wants to do. Whether or not it's I mean, if you like slam Northshire Cleric as a 3/5 turn 4, it's like pretty good, but I mean, you're gonna fall behind as your opponent continues to do things.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like you're taking a huge beating up front to spit these things out. You're taking a huge beating up front to try to, over the course of the game, play a bunch of cards that are bigger. But I think that you fall behind a little bit too much in a lot of matchups. Like against an aggro deck, you just cannot afford to reset yourself back to 1 mana.
Yeah, unless there was some sort of pirate with charge that could just fly out of your deck.
Well, we're past those days.
That would be one of the few ways to make this. I mean, this would be a lot better if that just said charge and wasn't standard, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
It's not instant.
Well,
yeah, it's not.
No, it's not. Yeah, patch just makes me sad, mostly because they changed the battle cry as well.
I don't even know what it is now.
The audio, yeah. The audio, just like, he doesn't say I'm in charge now. That was just so iconic. Like, and then he just doesn't say that anymore. It's very, very sad.
I mean, it's because he's not.
No, he's not. He's not at all. But it's just like they broke him. Like he was on this pedestal. He was just like powerful, strong, heroic, iconic man, and then they just like shattered him until he lost everything that defined him, and he's nothing now. And he comes out and he says like "Yar" or something. It's terrible. It's so bad. It makes me really sad. That is I think the biggest loser of every future set, including Boomsday, is Patches.
Yeah, he's a shell of his former self.
He's certainly a shell.
Rip Patches.
Yeah. But yeah, so Surrender to Madness, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Priest. I think that they have a little bit of ways to go. I think they need a little bit more than what they've been given. They're always given these weird cards. I think they just need some like straight up good cards. The one card Priest has that's been really underplayed is Dustbreaker.
Yeah, not in anything lately. Very good card though.
It's incredible. The card is like, you read it and it's so good, and I think that's why it's not seeing play. It's good, but it's conditional, and so Blizzard has this off switch that they just haven't turned on yet.
You mean as far as printing dragons?
Yeah, printing like really good dragons.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so like they have this design related way to control whether or not this incredible card actually gets put on the battlefield, which is cool. But it's unfortunate because it's like by printing that card they close design space, and that is like, that's lame.
It would be nice to see it in action. I think another problem with it is that the end games of the good decks are so good. Like, if you're just playing Dragon Priest, I don't know if it even does enough.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point. I think this is especially true in Boomsday, but like was starting to be true before it. There are not a whole lot of mid-range fair decks right now. Like, the last great mid-range deck we saw was back in like the Bone Mare era with Rogue.
Fair might be a stretch, but yes.
I mean, it was not hinging on it. Yeah, I mean, okay. It's hard to call that deck fair but I do think it was a fair deck because it was playing one-off cards that did the things that they did on the cards, and it wasn't relying too heavily on synergies in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Though it did have the Kells' high roll, which is very unfair, especially the Shadow Step. But like for the most part, you kind of just played a bunch of cards that did what they said and won.
It was straightforward.
Yeah,
and it just was sort of like the way you win is just by like playing on curve. Like that's becoming less common.
Yes, definitely that. Yeah, I mean it's hard to call any top tier deck fair. I think that's like a tough thing to make, but I think that it's a tough claim to make. But the concept of a fair deck is one that exists when people talk about like modern in Magic, and you know they're just decks where you play cards on curve that do what they say and are 1-for-1ing the opponent, or you know just playing threats that are threats. And I definitely think that's what that rogue deck was doing.
Yeah,
as opposed to Storm, or as opposed to Rosakis, which is like, oh yeah, suddenly all of my cards do 2 damage to you.
That's the perfect antithesis.
Yes. So it's like we haven't really seen a whole lot of that deck. We've been seeing a lot of synergistic decks that like get better as you have more mana. Even in Hunter, you know, with like Cube Hunter and this Death Rattle deck, it now has this highly synergistic deck where if you draw the wrong hand and try to play a fair game with it, you're going to lose. But if you draw the right hand, like you end up just obliterating your opponent with a bunch of charging dinosaurs and huge taunting minions.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Paladin as well. Like, despite how they seem, that both the even and odd Paladin decks really were like building up to like level up or Silver Sword or giving all their minions Divine Shield.
Yeah.
You know, and those are some of the closest decks to, you know, just trying to play minions every turn. But even that, there's more nuance to it.
Yeah, they're still not totally, you know, I still wouldn't call them fair.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't call Odd Paladin fair deck because it's, you know, that is a synergy deck. Mm-hmm. It's just a synergy deck that happens to be an aggro deck.
Yeah, it's not this fair thing with, like, Alder Peacekeeper turn 3 and, you know, the Glass Knight turn 4. Like, the Glass Knight? Like, what is that? What are you talking about, Evan? What card is that? Like, who cares about a Glass Knight? Like, we gotta like deal with Twig of the World Tree, Malagos, Moonfire nonsense, and Fatigue Warriors with 50 armor, and Blood Reaver Gul'dan. You know, the Glass Knight isn't gonna cut it. These mid-range decks, that just do this fair thing. They just either get like choked up by something like Spreading Plague or Super Collider. Like, those cards just completely devastate any attempt to play like a fair game.
Well, because those are not fair cards.
Not
like
at all.
when I was describing what a fair card is, it's like a 1-for-1, or it's like an overstated or slightly overstated or statted minion. But like Super Collider 2-for-1s you multiple times, and it also prevents you from doing other stuff. It's like actually a huge deal. And Spreading Plague, like, forget it. You know, that card can create, you know, that's like one of the swingiest cards in the game. It could just create like 25 health out of nowhere for 6 mana. And if you're playing a deck that's trying to attack your opponent to death, like, Spreading Plague can just be the end of the game, or it can at least slow you down enough that your opponent can draw the other one or play Ultimate Infestation.
That's a good card, Ultimate Infestation.
Yep, it's definitely really good, and Druid will change quite a bit when it's not in Standard anymore.
That'll be interesting. Speaking of Ultimate Infestation in Standard, there's also, like, there had been, and fair decks, Spiteful Druid and Spiteful Priest were both, like, they're as close as you were going to get to a fair deck, right? You know, they're basically just playing minions on curve, but those are also gone. That no one's doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny that those were the fairest decks, even though they had like card for card, like probably one of the biggest cheats of any deck. You know, just like quickly out of nowhere getting a random 10 mana minion. But those were definitely for the most part fair decks, ultra fair decks, and those, no one's really playing them. I mean, the Spiteful nerf was huge because like going from 6 to 7. A lot of other classes now, like, because it's coming out a turn later, have access to their best removal spells. So, you know, if you play a 7 mana spell and your opponent went first, then they go to 8 mana, they now have 8 mana board wipes available to them. They're like Psychic Scream is a little bit easier to play against your opponent's Spiteful Summoner. So there's like, I think that one had a really huge impact on what kind of counterplay was available. Also, 7 mana 4/4 is not a very good card.
No, it sure isn't.
So, yeah.
Well, that's probably it can still be really good though. It's probably worth remembering that card exists as they spoil more expensive spells.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, because they're giving Paladin this crazy legend, they'll give it some awesome 10 mana spell, and then I can make my Spiteful Paladin deck come back.
Or maybe a 9 mana spell. That way you can use Baku.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Yeah, my favorite thing about so whenever I try to make Spiteful Paladin, which is often, it's like once an expansion, it's like it's never good, but it's really good for like it's really good for hitting Dad Legend because people don't really know how to play against it. Dad Legend being rank 5.
I didn't know it was actually a thing.
Yeah. So it's. But the thing is, like, right now, the best spell you have is Dino Size, which is, both even and it's 8 mana. So if it got a more expensive spell, that'd be awesome, because you could get a more powerful card out of it. But anyway, my favorite thing to do with this deck is just jam as many archetypes in it as I can. So, like, just play, because then it's just maximally funny. Because it's like, all right, am I going to beat my opponent with, like, a buffed Stormwatcher this game, or is it going to be the Corpse Taker, or is it going to be a high roll up Dino Size, or is it going to be a Dino Size Stormwatcher? Like, it's really fun to just think about the various ways you could beat your opponent and have them emote at you. So putting Baku in there would be really cool.
That's just another angle to shoot.
Exactly. Yeah. So
9 is a sweet cost if they had 9 mana Paladin spell, because that's like Ysera and Sleepy Dragon and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. 8 mana has a lot of misses, but I think 9 has a bunch of really amazing hits. So that would be cool.
Dragon Hatcher could be a little bit of a bummer unless you also have a dragon in your deck. Maybe that could be another theme.
Yeah, I mean it's a synergy deck. It's just bad synergy.
Baku, Dragon, Spiteful Paladin.
Yeah, I think I gotta break that one out again. The next attempt I want to make at it, I don't have Kangaroo's Endless Army, but I would definitely want to make it mech. I want to throw like mechs in there in addition to the Stormwatchers and Corpse Takers. The list ends up being pretty tight.
I mean, you could wind up Spiteful Summoning into Giggling Inventor. That'll feel really good.
Oh, that costs 7 now. That's
gonna feel so nice when that happens.
Oh my god, I didn't even consider that. They didn't just nerf it to 6, they nerfed it to 7.
Womp.
That's brutal.
Womp.
That is so brutal. Yeah, that is a soul crushing end to that card.
Hello.
Yeah, I mean, so it's definitely, you can't talk about Boomsday without talking about Giggling Inventor. This was this was the broken neutral card that was in the set that, showed up in just every single list. Didn't matter if you were playing a fast deck or a slow deck, you wanted to play 2 Giggling Inventors. I think that you correctly identified that this card was pretty good when it got spoiled.
Yeah, it just seemed like too many stats and stuff, and like a potential new Sludge Belcher, which is basically what it was. It was even more than that, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so too. I would say it's hard to say that a card is better than Sludge Belcher, because that's a card that if printed now would see a lot of play.
For sure.
But Giggling Inventor was definitely more than that. And that was something. And also just, really disgusting in Quest Rogue, a deck that still has not died.
Amazingly, after 2 nerfs, 3rd time's the charm. It got people playing Blood Knight.
Yeah, yes, it had a huge warping effect on the meta.
That's really impressive to get like this completely basically never played card from the beginning of Hearthstone. Now it started showing up.
Yeah, it's really cool that can happen. Like, it's always really surprising when I see a card kind of come out of the coffers to see play, even though it's been around the whole time. So, to be fair, I was onto Blood Knight back in TGT with Secret Paladin.
Ooh.
So, I was playing Blood Knight in that deck because some lists ran like 1 Coghammer and 1 True Silver Champion. I just ran 2 Coghammers And Coghammer was really good with Blood Knight, and like you had Argent Squires and other stuff.
Yeah, Blood Knight's when you play him, he should be like, "Do you like to play with Squire?"
Oh man,
they really missed an opportunity there.
They definitely did. That would be. I mean, if they printed Blood Knight like 2 sets from now, I bet they would.
Yeah, when they do reprints to get more of them in circulation.
Yeah, because we don't all have complete classic collections, right?
Well, actually, I don't think I do because they added 4 cards.
That's true. I also don't. There's like Legends I'm missing, but they mostly suck. They mostly suck, and Deathwing.
Yeah, that is a nice one to have, I guess. Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's randomly like it sees play and it's really
Dragon
good.
Warrior.
Hell yeah.
Those are good times. 2 mana Fire War Axe.
Curator Paladin ran it. The later builds were running that.
I believe you.
Yeah, it was like it showed up pretty like towards the end of the life cycle of that deck, but
I must have missed
and it wasn't in every list. Yeah, it was definitely there.
That's fun.
Yeah, but
I was so on the neutral cards in Boomsday. Besides Giggling Venture, I was way off because I like went all in on mechs. I thought like Mecharoo would be showing up a lot. Microtech
I had that one too.
Controller, the 3 mana 2/1 that makes 2 1/1s. Upgradable Framebot, Coppertail Imposter. I thought all of these were going to be relevant, and none of them were.
Did you call out the Mech Egg?
You mean the Paladin one?
No, I guess it's not an egg. The little dragon, the 7 mana 2/2.
No. I think we discussed it and how it looked pretty good at some point, but it wasn't one of the ones I listed. I guess we probably said at some point that it was good. I probably mentioned it. You know what? One of the Hunter cards, and this guy did see some play. Fireworks Tech. I probably mentioned it with Fireworks Tech because that's like
what does he do?
The hottest thing to do. Fireworks Tech is the 2 mana 2/1 in Hunter with Battlecry. Give a mech you control +1/+1 and trigger its death rattle.
Oh, right.
And then Mechanical Whelp is the 6 mana 2/2 little mech dragon guy. Then when it dies, you get a 7/7 dragon.
Oh yeah, 6 mana. I see. Yeah, I mean those are. Yeah, that's definitely really interesting. I mean that plays really well with a bunch of Hunters cards already. Though I think that Cube is probably like the Devil Sorag deck is probably favored over the Mechanical Whelp deck, but.
You mean for a Cube Hunter?
Yeah, I mean just like in general as a choice deck choice rather. If you're going to play like a Death Rattle based Hunter deck, you're probably going to play Devil Sorag over and one that goes sort of hard into that Kathrina rather than the more mech centric one.
Exactly. That's how it has played out.
Yep, seems like it. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Kathrina kind of came about mid Witchwood, right? And then sort of evolved into this interesting deck that's just stuck around and been very powerful.
The Cube Hunter deck is really good. It's really cool how strong it is. A lot of it's Ironwood Grizzly. Like a 3/12 taunt is just awesome.
Oh yeah. Very few decks can really deal with that. It's like Void Lord almost.
Yeah, it completely hoses an aggressive deck, and then against a control deck, if you get to start cubing things, you're gonna definitely crush them. And yeah, cubing an Ironwood Grizzly is amazing. That just beats everything.
Yeah, definitely. And it's modal too, because you can get it from your deck and then it just has broken stats, or you can play it from your hand and it's a wall.
And you can cube it in the same turn if you have enough mana.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And Deathstalker Rexar is just amazing.
Yeah, it's really amazing how that card has evolved. So I think it didn't really see that much play when it first came out, and now it's in probably like most or all of the viable Hunter decks.
I would say all.
Yeah,
because it's a big part of your endgame plan, in addition to being one of your best answers to an aggressive deck.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I usually keep it
really
if it's in my opening hand. I usually keep it.
Oh wow. Interesting.
It depends what I'm playing against, but like I said, it's amazing in most matchups.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, the board wipe is pretty cool, and then on top of that, just getting crazy minions every turn is awesome. Because like sometimes all you need to do is just keep putting stats on the board, and eventually your opponent will run out of ways to deal with it, and Deathstalker XR just lets you do that.
He just keeps giving you value, and you can always find, I mean, not literally always, but very often find something nice and efficient and meaty for a good cost. Or you could just high roll and get an exploding bloat bat that has like poisonous or lifesteal.
Yeah, or lifesteal minions off that. I've like banked on that in a lot of matchups, and that's got me out of the gutter a few times. Also, of course, the 4/4 vicious fledglings with charge. Those are good too.
I don't think I've gotten stealthy fledglings. Those have been nice. And vicious scale hide with bitter tide hydra is, I mean, that's the best.
That's silly. Yeah, that's really cool because it does rush also.
And when it damages you with its ability, you recover the health.
Yeah, it removes the downside of bitter tide hydra, so it just becomes a massive stat bomb.
It's just a tide hydra.
Yeah, right, exactly. No bitter, just tides.
Cleans your clothes. So,
yeah. So what about Mage? Mage got bodied in this last nerf. Mana Worm, jeez.
Yeah.
What a beating.
Poor Mage.
I mean, I think it's ultimately okay. Like, I think that is a good thing going forward. I was expecting that card to get Hall of Famed. I was not expecting it to get nerfed, but I definitely didn't think it would be around forever. And like, so what is it doing now? It just has like a control deck.
Yeah, which is doing well. VS has it as one of the highest win rate decks. Big Mage.
I'll have to play it.
It's got a great endgame with Frostitch Jaina. It's just like, it sucks that you can't tutor. You really, really need to hit Frostitch Jaina to win, but you can't really draw super aggressively or else you'll fatigue yourself. So it's like not an easy deck to win with, but it's definitely good. I don't think it's using any new cards. I mean, Stargazer Luna is good in the aggressive Mage decks. Yeah,
sure. That card was definitely good. I was like, so I think I called that one out because I wasn't really sure what to make of Mage's cards, but I didn't really have a whole lot of confidence in Luna because I thought that Alaneth would do everything he needed to do, but Luna ended up being good.
Yep, the body, right? The
exactly.
aggressive Mage decks just, I'll take anybody.
Yeah, and like it also just comes out a little earlier. It's not like, because Alaneth is 6 mana do nothing, and Stargazer Luna like creates a minion and it gets you value, as early as, unlike many, much earlier than Alaneth will. Also, it's not as like, Alaneth is kind of a risk. Like, you have to play it when you know, like, okay, well, if I drew the rest of my deck, I would kill my opponent.
Mm-hmm.
But Luna, you can do, you don't have to make that consideration. You just have to, like, play it.
She can also, like, let's say you play her turn 7, you can play her and immediately play something from your hand to draw with her. So she can, like, kind of scale into the late game. She's a great card, it's just... And she could even have potentially been, or potentially be something that the Control Mage deck would want to use, because the Control Mage deck does want minions that don't cost 2, because it uses Kaliseth and it like Saronite Chain Gang. It's sort of like using minions for the same reason Razakis did. It just wants... It's an efficient way to stop your opponent's minions, is with your own.
Right.
But you don't... you can't, like... The main reason you can beat a Fatigue Warrior is because you're not drawing. So she can't, like, really work in the current Control Mage, but except for that, she would be, like, good in there, too. She's a very good card.
Yeah, it is quite good. I mean, cards that draw other cards are good in card games, but Stargazer Luna is no exception. So, solid.
Yeah, she reminds me of what's her name in League of Legends? Soraka.
Soraka. I guess the appearance of the card. Sure. I have to pull up the art to really go in on this.
Oh yeah, you'll once you see it.
Yeah, because I mean, I have a pretty. Oh yeah, look at that. Because I mean, she's blue and has the white hair.
Yeah, she just is Soraka. There's some neutral a neutral minion I thought we should talk about. Test subject. Or not test subject. Subject 9?
Subject
Subject
9.
9, yeah,
Oh,
there we
that's
go. Okay.
The secret one,
Yes,
right?
so this is a 5-mana 4/4 battle cry, draw 5 different secrets from your deck. And it's like really good in Secret Hunter.
Oh, sure.
Could it be good in Paladin? That's a fun idea to entertain. Paladin's secrets all cost 1, so you could like play all of them at the same time. It's almost like Mr. 6, except not.
Yeah, who am I?
Oh,
that's funny. Yeah, there's no Avenge. I mean, like, I feel like so much of the reason that Mysterious Challenger was good is because of Avenge.
Yeah, the getting that many extra stats was
and like
and it was disruptive because like they would do a thing and then one of your guys would get buffed.
Also, Avenge was just worth playing. Like, just if you had it in your hand, I kept it in some of my opening hands. It was like definitely it was a good card,
mm-hmm.
And also coming off of your huge swing play is really good. The next turn is really disruptive for your opponent because they lose an attack and then they have to pop all your secrets. Otherwise, you might have competitive spirit, etc., etc. You like screw up minions that they play. But Avenge was just something you could play at any point of the game, and it would be really good because the deck was like stuffed with Divine Shield. Anyway, yeah, I mean, who knows? It depends. If we see like cool new Paladin secrets, then something like Subject 9 could be really good.
Maybe if they reprint Avenge.
I wonder if they'll ever reprint a card.
I love the idea. I hope they do at least entertain the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they've had meetings about it and talked about it a bunch of times. And it might even have it's kind of a floodgate though, right? Like if you have a set where like this set in Boomsday, like it's mechs. There was a mech set in the past and they didn't reprint a single card.
Mm-hmm.
They did. I think that their answer to reprinting was like Giggling Inventor.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Like, hey, you want this card again? We'll kind of give it to you, but it's Hearthstone, so it's going to be different.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah, so but I mean, there are obvious advantages to reprinting. Like, it means that cards you already own like become playable again, which is cool. But it also like it opens the floodgates a bit if they reprint like one card. People are going to demand that they reprint 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I can see why they would stray from doing that, or at least very, very carefully consider it from sort of like a live service maintenance perspective.
It would be maybe start a bad precedent, and
that's yeah.
They could, and like it's cool that they're like you said, like instead of reprinting the card, let's make a completely new thing and find a creative solution. People like this card and they want to see it again, but we don't want to reprint an identical thing. What do we do here? Let's construct a solution in our digital game. I like that a lot.
Yeah, same here.
That.
I think I think Giggling Inventor was awesome. And also there's like that mage legend Toki, right? That like gets you a random legendary minion from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's another really awesome answer to it. So I think that those cards kind of hint towards like maybe not anytime soon, or they have no plans to, but it's definitely something they've considered, and they've considered it so much that they did find a way to bring old cards back into new games, which is like that's really cool. I think that's really excellent game design.
It's brilliant. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean these guys there is no lack of talent. They are still, even though I think the amount that I'm playing is waning, partly because of Magic Arena, but even despite that, I would say that they're incredibly talented over at Blizzard.
Oh yeah.
And there are aspects of this game, there are aspects of Hearthstone and the Hearthstone experience that are just not present in any other digital card game, Magic included. Most notably, the audio in this game is amazing.
Yeah, no other game has Giggling Inventor, right?
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, that too. I mean, like they really leveraged their digital medium quite a bit. They didn't just try to remake Magic. They made a completely different game, which is a lot more than a lot of other digital card games can say.
It's an impressive feat.
I think so.
It seems like there really weren't that many big neutral cards from the set, like Subject 9's in one deck. Giggly Inventor made a big impact, and Ziliax. Obviously, we mentioned him a bunch of times. But other than that, I mean, were there a bunch of there aren't many neutral cards from Boomsday that are seeing play.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, we discussed that a little bit, right? Like, you have to be careful about how good you make your neutral stuff. You definitely want to have neutral stuff so that you can make archetypes work across classes, but like, you also and fill in gaps for multiple classes, like maybe classes need a taunt minion or something.
Mm-hmm.
But also,
or maybe 2 taunt minions that both have Divine Shield.
Yeah, for 5, no problem. So it's definitely a useful tool to have neutrals available. Also, it's better for less entrenched players, like we mentioned. But again, you want to be careful that you don't homogenize your game, which is very easy to do with a bunch of really excellent neutral minions.
They made Mechathon, obviously very excellent neutral minion. I think actually, like there's a big tournament recently, and the winner was playing a Mechathon Druid deck.
That's pretty cool.
It's a cute card. I'm glad it exists, but I don't think it's not in a tier 1 category, but it is a neutral card that's doing something.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's I definitely agree with that. Also, tournament environment's a little different because of the conquest format and how inbred the metagame can be, because all the teams probably know who's playing what. That the fact that it was seeing play in a tournament is definitely not an indication that it's tier 1, but definitely an indication that it's a strategy worth considering.
It's cool that it would be competitive enough to work in a tournament.
Yeah, yes, that is it. At baseline, the deck has to meet some sufficient goodness level in order to see play, and definitely did.
I know I've lost to Mechathon, maybe not a bunch of times, but people have definitely gotten me with it, both in Priest and in Druid.
Yeah, I lost to it too, and I really wish that it had a better animation when you lost to it.
Yeah.
Your hero just kind of blows up, and no, I need I want to see something.
You need to feel shame.
Yeah, I want to see the orbital cannon come down from space and zap my face. I need to
7-minute cinematic.
Yeah, it needs to be like Shutterwalk and just start playing all the cards that were played again.
That card got nerfed.
It did get nerfed, which is that's a pretty funny situation.
I guess one success of Boomsday is that it definitely pumped more life into Hunter and Warrior, so that's really great because they
yeah,
needed
I think
some love.
so. Yeah, I mean Hunter especially was suffering from an identity issue for a very long time. I think that they just kind of had one deck for a really long time, but now they have not one deck. They actually have a bunch of non-aggro options, which is really cool.
And impressive. Blizzard muscled through. They kept feeding us, this weird stuff. We're like, what is this? It's like the first time you eat Indian food or something like that. And then after a few bites, oh, this is good. that's where we got. We're finally realizing, oh, this all these secret things and Rocktalar, this can actually work out.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I think that they had a lot of they caught a lot of flack, but I think that when you're designing a game like this, you're gonna have this because card evaluation's hard. I'm looking at the list of cards that I thought were good, and I missed a lot.
Same.
And I think, but that's true of any player. Any player is going to miss. So I think that the people's takes on these new cards, especially their hot take, they see the card and then they click reply, they're going to be terrible, and it's going to be you're going to have these really wrong takes, but because it's the internet, people are going to have really strong opinions about it, and Blizzard's going to get just showered with, if they print a bad card, why are you giving this class this bad card? It needs good cards. Or if they print a good card, why are you giving this class good cards? It needs bad cards. So and they kept doing this with Hunter, just oh yeah, I mean we're gonna give you this thing that it doesn't just give you one random animal, it gives you 2. And people thought it was really funny and then really terrible, and ended up actually seeing play and being a good card.
In the deck that it was in, it is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. So it's all just a winded way of saying like they know what they're doing. They're testing internally. Sometimes their plans take place over the course of multiple sets and not just one. But I don't have very much game design experience, but definitely from reading like Mark Rosewater talking about designing Magic, that's something they consider. They're not just considering the set they're making; they're considering that set and the subsequent sets and the subsequent sets themes, and also how long the cards' life cycles will be in their given environments and stuff. And Blizzard's they're pretty hands off when it comes to balancing. So they don't want to make a game and just like lazily design it and fix it later. That's not their approach, which is really refreshing actually, because most games are developed with that in mind. I think their approach is to get it right the first time.
The abundance of stuff like DLC, like that kind of concept, enabled people to make a game partially functioning and partially complete, and then wrap it up later.
Yeah, I mean, this is a topic. This is a topic for a full episode of a different podcast, but definitely, I think that the software development cycle and like the agile mindset, where you want to get something that functions and then just work on the next thing, that definitely found its way into the world of video games. And also, like, because all games are live services now, you can patch every single game, unlike when it was in the GameCube, PS1 era, PS2 era. So if you release a broken game, you can just day one patch it.
Yeah, or not release all the content at the beginning.
Oh yeah, that too. I mean, certainly to your point about DLC, like you can release a game with little more than an engine, with the expectation that you're going to eventually release more content for it, as is what happened with like Destiny 2.
But with patches, like there could be some gun that like, oh, this just instantly kills everybody, like, and it's broken and completely unfair. Then you can just go in and tweak it that afternoon and fix it. Versus Magic cards, which you cannot do.
Yeah, so that's why it's always been interesting to me that that's been their approach, because with physical cards, like, you do not have that option. The only knob you have to turn is whether or not a card is legal to play, and you really don't want to be banning too often. And Wizard has been banning a lot more than they have in the past recently, especially in Standard. But like, they're still hesitant to do it. They still really don't like to do it. But that none of those restrictions are present in Hearthstone. They can completely change what every card does tomorrow, and every player would have no trouble catching up with that. Like, they would just be able to go into their collection and see their changed cards, as opposed to physical paper.
And the changed cards would do the new effects, Like, if a card has been errated and nobody tells you, it won't magically start doing the new thing.
Well, yeah, that's my point. Is like, if you have a card that's been just sitting in your cube and you haven't read an official Wizards press release in years, then like, you have no idea that this summoned soldier is actually a human soldier.
Yeah.
And it's so it's a weird situation, but it's interesting the approach Blizzard takes. But it's always worth trusting them.
And it does. Time has proven that, and it does also seem like they at least do also try to mostly get everything right the first time, like Wizards does, because they do know that it would be unpleasant if they just had to keep nerfing and unnerfing stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Nobody would like that.
Maybe somebody would.
Yeah, I mean, some people probably would like that. Like, I guess now that I'll walk that back, because League of Legends, as an example, I think I've brought up before.
Yeah, League players would like that.
Yeah, because that's how that game functions. They just have so many characters, and they just constantly change them, constantly. It's like they've really adopted the agile mindset of releasing your product and then tuning it and tuning it and tuning it and tuning it with trying to meet your priorities and whatnot. So that's like really that's their design philosophy, which is just in stark contrast to something like Team 5 and Hearthstone's, where they're really just trying to get it. They're trying to treat it like a paper card game, which is cool. I like that.
I think it's one of the very charming and enjoyable things about it.
Definitely. So what do you say about wrapping up right there?
Let's wrap this up, put a bow on it, and send it to our moms.
We'll send it to Ben.
Yes, thanks, Ben. Yeah, here's a new plaid shirt for you.
I'm sure he does not need a new one.
He probably gets them all the time.
Yeah, honestly, if somebody's going to send him or give him a gift, it's probably
Just wakes
that.
up and there's all boxes at his door, all of plaid shirts.
I will say I'm looking forward to him, whatever project he's working on right now, I'm looking forward to it coming out so that I can see more Ben Brode.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I hope he raps more.
Yeah, he's a character. He has a really interesting story. I think his story began with him, like, he was delivering pizzas to Blizzard, and he had a friend who worked there.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's the legend. It's worth looking up.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, but he's got a good story, and like he's quite a character. So he's just incredibly lovable, especially when you compare him to like all the spokespeople for like every other game. They're just like normal people, and Ben Brode is just like Ben Brode.
I mean, shout out to Mark Rosewater. He's also pretty. He's
sure.
lovable too.
Yeah, Mark. I mean, definitely. This is not. I'm not making that sweeping statement to say that Ben Brode is the only one. But he is certainly an exception. There are other exceptions, but he is definitely one of them.
Good save. That's the second one of the morning.
Yeah, it's been a tough morning, but a lot better than if I woke up at 7. So if you want more 6 saves and you want all kinds of other exceptional content, you can check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/lastturnhs or facebook.com/lastturnhs. We're also hosted all over the internet on iTunes and Google Play. You can find us there. We're also on Stitcher. Our primary place is actually SoundCloud, so soundcloud.com/lastturn. And we have a really sweet YouTube channel, so you should check that out. You can find links to all this stuff on lastturnhs.com. Actually, when trying to remember what cards I thought were good at the beginning of Boomsday, I went to YouTube and I checked out our visual spoiler, which had very neatly displayed all of the cards that I picked out as the best ones. So that was really awesome. Good work, Evan.
Thanks, Bart.
So yeah, you guys should also check that out. It's pretty sweet. And yeah, I think that's basically all we got for you.
Thanks, Boomsday. We'll see you next turn, Boomsday.
We will see you next turn.